For those of you who don't know, my name is Steve Walther. I'm the general manager of the North Plains District. A couple of people that I wanted to recognize today from the board, and then at the end, probably have Jess say a couple things if you'd like to when I'm finished, when we're finished with our program. But my board is here and supported this. We've started demonstration projects as the district in 2010, and the people who got that going with us is Harold Graw, currently our board president, and Danny Krinke were among the first and still are demonstrators in our demonstration projects. That's been very helpful. We plan on continuing to do this over the next few years. We need your input. What would you like for us to demonstrate, or what you would like to demonstrate as far as the district is concerned in the next couple of years or in the future? There may be something you have on your mind that might work. Get it to us. We'll get it to our committee and see if we can do those type of demonstrations. I waited till Greg Sikora actually put a bite of dessert in his mouth to talk about one program before I finish up. We're part of an RCPP program, Resource Conservation Partnership Program, with NRCS and with High Plains Groundwater Conservation District south of us. And there's some funding for you that's available under conservation. And I wanted Greg to just talk about what some of the changes are and where we're headed with that program.
All right, thank you, Steve. We're doing under the RCPP. It's a little different than the regular EQIP program. Probably the biggest difference is you can come in relatively quickly, and we have funds in there, and through the district and working with them, they set 4 practices up as high priority. So if you apply for one of those 4 practices, we can do the funding relatively quick. Whereas with the regular EQIP, I'm sure some of y'all have done it, you come in, you make your application, and it might be 3, 4, 5, 6 months before we actually get funding and can fund that contract. And you have to be ranked and compete with everybody else for that EQIP money. Well, under RCPP, we have the money available. There's probably going to be a little short window now. The federal government works on October 1 to September 30th funding year. It's not January, December, so we're off by 3 months. And at the end of what we call a fiscal year, which we're fixing to hit here, Steve, and next week,
Yeah.
They kind of make us stop doing things so we can get the books balanced and figure out where we're at. So there's going to be a short window in there. We might not have funds available. But typically with RCPP, you can come in and apply for one of those 4 practices, and we can get you funded pretty quick, and you can do that work rather quickly. And the 4 practices we set up, and this was in conjunction with the water districts, is water flow meters, what we call soil moisture monitoring. The AquaSpy and the other companies are available for that. Chemigation valves, which are required by the state of Texas whenever you apply any chemicals through any irrigation system. I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with those, but it is a good practice to keep those chemicals out of the water supply. That's the 3rd one. And then this year, something different. Kind of Danny Krinke and some of the other folks asked about this, is irrigation system monitoring, which is what you'd put on your system. There's several out there available. Pivot Track does it. Lindsay Zomatic has a system with FieldNet. I think Valley has a system on their center pivots. And then some of the subsurface drip companies have come up with some monitoring that they can put there at their control station that'll feed everything back to you, either on an iPhone is most common, or a smartphone. And you can get instant data back, whether the system's on, whether it's operating correctly, system operating pressure, and so forth. So we just started offering this irrigation system monitoring in the last year. It has some some components that have to go with it. We're doing most of these practices under irrigation water management. We have a standard, that's what it's called, and under that standard we have some things we have to meet to be able to do cost share. Under that standard, it requires pretty much that we measure the water, so to be eligible for either the soil moisture monitoring or the irrigation system monitoring, you have to have a flow meter either at the system, which will be at the pivot, or your filter station with a drip, or you can have it at your wells. But that fits in pretty well with y'all's program too, and some other ones. And then on the irrigation system monitoring, since rainfall is such an important part, I think y'all saw that in all the slides this morning, we keep up with irrigation water and how much rainfall we get. On the irrigation system monitoring, the system that you install has to have a monitoring rain gauge that will tell you when it rained and how much. And then kind of the last thing is at the end of the year, if you apply for that and get chosen for funding, at the end of the year you'd have to submit to your county office a little short report, which most all of them can give you some type of report out of their system to show that that irrigation system monitoring system worked for that crop growing season. But I don't think that's, what I've talked to everybody, that's not a big deal. Pivot Track provides reports, FieldNet provides reports, the drip companies, they have all reports. And we're not interested in how much water you pumped. We're trying to get water savings, but we're not interested in that. We're not going to share your information. If it's in that contract, it's there. We just have to have that report so when we get audited that we can show that that system worked for that year. That's the reason for the report, is that it works, and we do get audited, and that's part of the system. It should be. It's taxpayers' money, so we need to be sure that we're doing it right and correctly. So kind of excited about that. Danny's been asking me for about 2 years about the irrigation system monitoring. That's not a negative thing, Danny. We need your input. So I'm glad we did it, but it takes a little while, Steve, to get it. But the RCPP program, it's a good thing for those smaller tools in that toolbox. If you're interested in doing some of the management deals that they talked about this morning, it's there for y'all's use. Under the soil moisture monitoring, we do that for 1 year. We offer that. We'll help you with the probes for 1 year on every field or system that you have. We cut it off after 1 year. We feel like that gives you a big enough window to see if they work or how you like them. The irrigation system monitoring, we'll make that payment during the first year after we know that it's working. So I think we got some pretty good tools. People have asked for that, so we've incorporated it into the EQIP program, which then carried over into the RCPP program. That might have been more than you wanted, Steve.
No. Oh,
anybody got any questions, go ahead.
So this is through the NRCS, not
Yeah.
through the water district?
No, it's through, if you want to apply for the RCPP, it's through NRCS. But that program is pretty unique. It's really a good thing. We partnered to get those funds for y'all. RCPP required us as a federal agency to have local partners. And I think that's really good. That way we get the input. So the local partners were North Plains, High Plains, and a couple single county districts. One in Lamesa, Plains, Brownfield, I think they were. Did I get something wrong, Danny?
No, I just want to keep on to you to get the well killed, too.
Get what, sir?
The well killed.
Oh, okay. We'll work on it. One step at a time. The federal government's kind of like one of them ocean liners. We turn real slow, and it takes a long time. Now we're getting it. We incorporated that, and I'm glad you mentioned. I'm really proud of the deal at the start. You mentioned about the bubblers and the residue and that nozzling system. We call it PARM. I didn't actually name it. That's Precision Application Residue Management. We always have to have a name and an acronym. I didn't name it. That was named by somebody else, but it kind of fits. It's precision application, and you have to have the residue management. It's a real close kinfolk to LIPA, but it's not exactly LIPA. But we substitute the residue for the furrodikes and the other thing that's kind of, they had their place, but now they've kind of gone away, particularly with the flat planting and everything else. So I'm really proud we got that put into the system. Yeah, I think it's better too, Leon. And then for several years, we did the cost sharing on re-nozzling or changing up your center pivot to a more efficient package. We did that by feet, and it was the length of the pivot normally. And I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, worked with some folks, and now we got that per drop. So on this 30-inch spacing that people have mentioned, we can do a much better job of assisting on that on a per drop basis. So if you want them on 30 inches for part of the system, and part of the system might have 60-inch spacing, and the first couple tires might be eye-wobbed or something else, we can kind of customize that to what you want to do on your particular pivot. So doing it by the drop, I want to mention this because Leon's been on me for several years, and rightfully so. Now we do it, Leon, with and without pressure regulators. But you kind of have to know what you want to do when you come into our local office so that we get you signed up for the right thing, because there's options there now that we didn't have in the past. But I think, Steve, we're doing a lot better job, and a lot of that's due to the input from Water District, farmers up here. We're trying to respond and keep our program pretty close to what y'all need as quick as we can. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate a few minutes to talk.
Greg and the NRCS has been a valuable partner with us. What I like about working with the NRCS is they handle their money directly to the producer. It doesn't pass through the district. And that's a good thing because, you know, we prefer you talk directly to them on many of our programs. One of the things I wanted to mention is that, you know, you saw our big picture of the, actually it is bigger than life, Harold. That picture of you back there on that thing is actually bigger than you are, I think.
Yeah.
And that is the our Master Irrigator program. It's been running for a couple of years, has been extremely beneficial to our district. NRCS has given us, or has put aside $1.6 million for that program, $400,000 a year. We just finished our second year. We have 2 more years left. Opportunity, if you have not gone through Master Irrigator, you should look at taking those 4 days that we tie you up, I think in March and the first part of April, to go through that. You're eligible for those funds, and I can tell you that's better than winning and getting. And on those, you'll have to go to be educated, and we handle the education portion. The NRCS handles the money and the availability of those funds, and we do appreciate that. The last program that I want to talk about is a new one. It's so new that we're still trying to figure out how we put out the funds for it. Normally you wait and you put together a program and work out all the detail, and then you present it. But we had a problem this year. Our problem is that the program we have, we're starting is, it's required some education credits for producers, irrigators in our district to receive that cost share. Well, this program and the program we had a couple of weeks ago count. Master Irrigator will count, but really it's an education type program, and through that program we have some funding that we can cost share some irrigation equipment, conservation equipment with you. Those type of things we cover are soil moisture probes, pivot monitoring and control systems, well cutoff systems. Is that well kill, Danny?
Yes.
I got well kill covered. On-farm weather stations, plant stress monitoring systems, and telemetry equipment. We don't have the kind of funding that the NRCS has, and but it is available if you attended the entire thing today, or you attended the presentations that we had back on the 7th. These were the 2 qualifying events because there has to be some water conservation. We set those. Someone asked about the limit. Is there limited funds? Well, we only have about $300,000 for this program. And you can imagine that it will probably go pretty quick. I will send you out a listing and exactly how much funding is available. Our funding is tied to simply, if you've applied for a meter before, and we still have lots of water meter money left. If you've applied for a water meter before, you make the application, you go out and install it, you give us a call, we come out and check it, and then you send us the receipt. And when we get the receipt on the equipment then we write you a check for our share. That's how we do it, and then we file with the Water Development Board. This program will work essentially the same way. There is some reporting requirements, and I believe on this, and this is, you do need to have I think flow meters installed. If you don't, we'll cost share your flow meters out of a different pile of money. One of the questions that have come up is, well, if I can get money from the NRCS and and I can get money from the district, what happens if I get more money, for putting the meter on than I actually had to pay to put the meter on? Well, that hardly ever happens, but I don't care, and the district doesn't care. We're trying to stay out of the NRCS funding. That's why I had Greg up here talking about NRCS, is that if you can get your mother or your grandmother to pay for your meter, I am not going to be worried about it if you show up and you've done what we've asked you to and you ask for a cost share back on that meter. That's how it works. The education program, this is not a come in at lunch and eat and you get to sign up for money. You have to be here from the beginning. So if you're around about 9:15 or so, 15, 20 minutes after we started, until you leave today and listen to me talk, then you qualify. You need to sign out. Back there, if you signed in, you need to sign out on the time walking out the door. And that's how we keep up. If I get back to the office and I see that you haven't signed out, I'm assuming that you're still here doing something else. So you need to sign out. Okay. With that, I apologize in advance for not having a solid list of what you can and can't apply for. What I told you here is going to be available. If you're on that list back there, we will send you something within the next couple of weeks is exactly what we're going to cover, and you can start looking at making that application. Again, I wish if we'd have got the money earlier in the summer, we'd have been able to work it out, but this is normally when we do our education programs, and we did not want to miss that opportunity. There's a couple people I do want to thank in this program. We're doing this today because we had board members who stepped up, tenured, back in 2010 and wanted to do demonstrations. We do demonstrations in conservation education. If you have a program you'd like for us to do or something you think we need to go in a direction, please let Kirk know. I want to say special thanks to all the producers that have participated in our programs that aren't the board. We have several of them. One of the big things that made this thing work in the beginning was some of the tools we saw today. I remember that AquaSpy was, and that type of technology early on really got us going. It let us look at soil moisture. It helped us start looking at stuff on a real-time basis in the field. And that was very helpful. So thank you, Phytotech and AquaSpy for your participation in this. Leon New has been doing conservation education and agricultural education before I was born. Yeah, that is actually true. It was before I was born. And this program would have not been the success that it's been so far without his cooperation. So Leon has talked to me, is he going to hang out? And we're finishing up our 3, 4, 5 project, and he says, well, it depends. It depends on what we come up with next time. So help me come up with something. And thank you, Leon.